Hi guys and welcome to Tiny Evils, and today we are going to start with another type of systemic mycosis. So we are going to start with North American blastomycosis, right, which is also known as Chicago's disease and Gilchrist disease. And if you want to remember these three names, I have a small mnemonic for that. Okay, so you can remember these names by a small mnemonic: C, N, G, right? C for Chicago's disease, N for North American blastomycosis, and G for Gilchrist disease. And to be honest, I think it's stupid. You will just remember them without the mnemonic, I'm sure. Okay, so this North American blastomycosis is caused by another type of thermally dimorphic fungi that we've already covered, right? So it is caused by Blastomyces dermatitis, right? Okay, and now we are going to talk about the pathogenesis of this disease, right? So, like we have already covered, the mode of infection in cases of systemic mycosis is inhalation of these spores, right? So again, there is inhalation of spores of blastomyces as well. After the inhalation, these spores reach the lung, right? They reach the lung where they meet the alveolar macrophages, and these alveolar macrophages engulf the microconidia, right? But these microconidia again survives, and they get converted into the yeast form, because we have 37 degrees Celsius temperature inside our body, and as we all know, that these thermally dimorphic fungi likes to be in the yeast form at 37 degrees Celsius, right? So this yeast form of Blastomyces dermatitis actually expresses a very important virulence factor of this organism. Okay, it expresses a glycoprotein. Okay, and this glycoprotein's name is BAD. Okay, its name really is BAD. Its name is BAD1, and BAD stands for Blastomyces dermatitis adhescent 1, right? And that is why I've put up the picture of Billie Eilish. And remember that bad blastomycosis is really the bad guy having the bad one, uh, bad one glycoprotein. So I hope this helps, right? So this bad one glycoprotein is a very important virulence factor for blastomyces dermatitis, right? It's a very important virulence factor. Okay, and this actually fires up our immune system. It is going to induce both cellular and humoral immune response, right? So we saw starting in the starting of the pathogenesis that how it is, sort of similar to histoplasmosis, right? There is inhalation of the spores, and then they reach the lung, meet the alveolar macrophages, and then they get converted into the yeast form. But the important thing that we have to remember here is this bad one, right? This glycoprotein, which is an important virulence factor, and it is going to fire up our immune system. Right. Now, the epidemiology, of course, it is an endemic mycosis, so it is going to be found in particular geographical regions. And again, there is this similarity between histoplasmosis and blastomycosis, that it is again found in the Mississippi River Valley and Ohio River Valley. Okay, so it is again going to be endemic in Ohio and Mississippi River Valley. Right. So now let's head to the clinical features of blastomycosis, how the patient is going to present. Right. So like we already know that systemic mycosis are usually going to be asymptomatic in cases of people who have good cell mediated immunity, right? Who are immunocompetent, right? So the cases normally are asymptomatic. Our immune system is going to take care of all of it, right? But in case somebody has low cell mediated immunity, we are going to see symptoms, and the most common one is the acute pulmonary blastomycosis that we are going to see, right? It is the most common form, but and the disseminated form is obviously going to be seen in HIV infected people, right? Or someone who has undergone organ transplant. Now the extrapulmonary lesions or the manifestations are also seen in case of blastomycosis, right? And we gotta know about those. So the extrapulmonary manifestations that are seen are mostly they are skin lesions, right? The most common ones are the skin lesions, and they could be verrucous or ulcerative, right? So we see skin lesions that could be either verrucous or ulcerative. So we verrucous or ulcerative skin lesions, and we can also see osteomyelitis in some cases, and we can see in cases of men there is involvement of prostate gland and epididymis as well, which is bad, right? So there is prostate and epididymis involvement present in men, and we have brain abscess, right? This is important. Brain abscess is seen in about 40% of the cases of HIV infected people. So people who are HIV infected, 40% of them are going to show up with brain abscess, and this brain abscess can again, can be followed by spinal and epidural abscess and meningitis as well, right? So that is about the clinical features. Now let's see about the lab diagnosis, right? So how are you going to diagnose it in your lab? Now we collect the specimen, we collect the biopsy of the tissue, and we perform then the histopathological examination, right? You're going to stain it. After staining it, what you are going to see under the microscope is this figure of 8. We see figure of 8 appearance. Now what am I talking about? So at 37 degrees Celsius, right, we are going to see the yeast form. So we see the yeast form like this. There is this single parent cell. There is this single parent cell, right? And there is a single budding yeast with broad base, right? And this is the parent cell, and this is the bud, and this is the broad base. So we are going to see a round thick walled yeast cell, right? This parent cell, which is having this single bud coming out of it, and the base is broad. Remember in histoplasmosis as well, we in the microscopy see intracellular yeast cell, right? They were inside the macrophages. They are not inside the macrophages in this case. In histoplasmosis, actually those yeast cells were very tiny. Actually, maybe I did not mention the size. They were about 2 to 4 microns in case of histoplasmosis, while in this case they are 8 to 15 microns in size. So they are bigger than histoplasmosis, right? So remember this. This is the figure of 8 appearance I was talking about, right? This is a beautiful picture of figure of 8, and here as well. So there is this parent cell from which coming out you can see the bud, right? And the base is broad. Now what else you can do after the microscopy? We can do culture, of course, which is basically the gold standard method. So at 25 degrees Celsius, you are going to see, you are going to perform culture at, on the SDA, Sabrod-Dextrose agar, and you are going to see at 25 degrees Celsius the hyphal form, right? You're going to see the hyphal form, and there will be septate hyphae, right? The septas are present, and there is microconidia, and these microconidia, some book says is pear-shaped. Okay, so pear-shaped microconidia with septate hyphae. There is no macroconidia like we saw in case of histoplasmosis, right? A very peculiar macroconidia we used to see, the tuberculate macroconidia, but there is no macroconidia in case of blastomycosis. So you can remember from blastomycosis, the blastomycosis blast. So when something blasts, only small, tiny things are seen. So these small, tiny microconidia are seen. No macroconidia, right? So here's the picture of the septate hyphae. These are the septate hyphae, and you can see these tiny microconidia. All right. Now in serology, we can do antibody detection by immunodiffusion test, right? And there is specific test for blastomycosis, because they have this bad one like we talked about. Okay, so we can detect antibody against bad one, and there is also antigen. There is also antigen A. Okay, so against them we can detect the antibody in case of serology, and of course we can perform real-time PCR, right? And for the treatment, okay, for the treatment aspects, we can give itraconazole in most cases, right? Because mostly not everybody is HIV infected, right? So in most cases we give itraconazole when you're seeing some kind of skin lesions or skin manifestations. And in case of disseminated cases, right, in disseminated cases, which will be seen in case of HIV infected people, right, you can give amphotericin B. So now let's do a little bit of recap of what we have learned about blastomycosis. So blastomycosis was also known as Chicago's disease or Gilchrist disease, caused by Blastomyces dermatidis, right? And we saw how much similar it is to histoplasmosis. The mode of infection is again inhalation of the spores. They reach the lung, meet alveolar macrophages, and there is this very important glycoprotein, which is a very important virulence factor of this organism, known as BAD1. Okay, BAD1 stands for Blastomyces dermatidis adhessin 1, right? And the epidemiology is going to be the same, right? the epidemiology is going to be same. We are going to these will be endemic in Ohio and Mississippi River Valley. The clinical features, normally they are not going to be presenting with any kind of clinical features. They are going to be asymptomatic, but the acute pulmonary cases are the most common one. And in case of disseminated or HIV infected people, we are going to see disseminated cases, right? There will be osteomyelitis, and the skin lesions are the most common ones. They could be verrucous or ulcerative, and brain abscess in about 40% of the HIV infected people we are going to see, right? Then we talked about the lab diagnosis. In the microscopy, we are going to see the figure of 8 appearance, right? The yeast cell with the budding yeast with a broad base, right? And they are going to be about 8 to 15 microns in size, unlike in case of histoplasmosis, which were just 2 to 4 microns in size. And on culture, you're going to see at 25 degrees Celsius the hyphal form, having a pear-shaped microcornelia with septate hyphae. Serology, we can do we can do detection of antibodies against BAD1 and antigen A, okay, through immunodiffusion test, and we can do real-time PCR, right? And for the treatment, we can give itraconazole, and in case of disseminated cases, we are going to use amphotericin B. I really hope you like this video. Thank you.